I plunged to my death, Chapter 13 of Percy Jackson. We spent 2 days on the Amtrak train heading west, through hills, over rivers, past amber waves of grain. We weren't attacked once, but I didn't relax. I felt that we were traveling around in a display case, being watched from above and maybe from below. That something was waiting for the right opportunity. I tried to keep a low profile because my name and picture was splattered all over the front pages of a serial East Coast newspaper. The Trenton Register News showed a photo taken by a tourist as I got off the Greyhound bus. I had a wild look in my eye. My sword had a metallic blur in my hands. It might have been a baseball bat or a lacrosse stick, and the picture of the caption read, 12-year-old Percy Jackson wanted for questioning in Long Island appearance of the mother 2 weeks ago. Is shown her fleeing from the bus where he accosted several earlier female passengers. The bus exploded on an East New Jersey roadside shortly after Jackson fled the scene. Based on eyewitnesses' encounter, police believe that the boy may have traveled with 2 teenagers, with 2 teenager accomplices. His stepfather, Gabe Ogilvy, has offered a cash reward for information leading to his capture. Don't worry, Annabeth told me. Mortal Police could never find us, but she didn't sound so sure. The rest of the day I spent entirely pacing the length of the train because I had a really hard time sitting still or looking out the window. Once I spotted a family of centaurs galloping across a wheat field. Blows of bows at the ready, Hunt launched a little boy centaur who was the size of a second grader on a pony. Caught my eye and waved. I looked around the passenger car, but nobody else had noticed. The adult riders all had their faces burned in a laptop, computer, or magazine. Another time toward evening, I saw something huge moving through the woods. I could have sworn it was a lion, except the lion don't live in the wild in America. And this thing was the size of a hummer. Its fur glinted gold in the evening light. Then it leaped through the trees and was gone. Our reward money was returning Gallardo the poodle. Had only been enough to purchase tickets as far as Denver. We couldn't get berths in the sleeper car, so we dozed in the seats. My neck got stiff. I tried not to drool in my sleep. Since Annabeth was sitting right next to me, Grover kept snoring and bleeding and waking me up. Once he shuffled around and his fake foot fell off, Annabeth and I started to stick it back on before any of the other passengers noticed. So Annabeth asked me, once we'd gotten Grover's sneaker readjusted, who wants your help? What do you mean? Well, you were asleep just now, you mumbled. I won't help you. Who were you dreaming about? I reluctant to say anything. I was the second time I dreamed about an evil voice from the pit, but it bothered me so much I finally told her. Annabeth was quiet for a long time. That doesn't sound like Hades. He always appeared on a black throne, and he never laughs. He offered my mother in trade. We also could do that, I guess, if he meant help me rise from the underworld. If he wants war with the Olympians, but why? Ask you to bring him to the Master Bolt if he already has it. I shook my head, wishing I knew the answer. I thought about what Grover had told me. That's the Furies on the bus seemed to have been looking for something. Where is it? Where? Maybe Grover sensed my emotions and snorted in his sleep, muttered something about vegetables, and turned his head. Annabeth readjust his cap. It covered his horns. Percy, you can't barter with Hades. You know that, right? He's deceitful, heartless, and greedy. I don't care if his kindly ones weren't as aggressive this time. This time, I asked. You mean you've run into them before? Her hand crept up to her necklace. She fingered a glazed white band paintable with the image of pine tree. One of her Claytons of the summer tokens. Let's just say I've got no love for the Lord of Death. You can't be tempered to make the deal for your mom. What would you do if you're dead? That easy? She said. I'd love him to rot. You're not serious. Annabeth's gray eyes fixed on me. She wore the same expression she'd worn in the woods at the cap. The moment she drew her sword against the hellhound, my dad's resisted me since the day I was born. Percy, she said. He never wanted a baby when he got me. He asked Athena to take me back to raise me in Olympus because he was too busy with his work. She wasn't happy about that. She told him heroes had to raise by their mortal parents. But how? I guess you weren't born in a hospital. I appeared on my father's doorstep in a golden cradle carried down Olympus from Safar in the west wind. You think my dad would remember that as a miracle? As a miracle, right? Like maybe he'd take some digital photos or something. But he always talked about my arrival and if it were the most inconvenient thing that had ever happened to him. When I was 5, he got married and totally forgot about Athena. He got a regular mortal wife and had 2 regular mortal kids and tried to pretend I didn't exist. I stared out the train window and the lights of the sleeping town were drifting by. I wanted to make Annabeth feel better, but I didn't know how. My mom married a really awful guy, I told her. Grover said. She did it to protect me, to hide me in the scent of the human family. Maybe that's what your dad was thinking. Annabeth kept whirring at her necklace. She was pitching the gold college ring that hung with the beads. In the acre to me that the ring must be her father's. I wondered why she wore it if she hated him so much. He doesn't care about me, she said. His wife, my stepmom, treated me like a freak. She wouldn't let me play with her children. My dad went along with her. Whenever something dangerous happened, something with monsters, they would both look at me resentfully, like, how dare you put our family at risk. Finally, I took the hint. I wasn't wanted. I ran away. How old were you? Same age as I started camp. 7. But you couldn't have gotten all the way to Half-Blood Hill by yourself. Not alone. No. Athena watched over me, guided me towards help. I made a couple extended friends, unaccepted friends who took care of me for a short time anyway. I've wanted to ask what happened, but Annabeth seemed lost in sad memories. So I listened to the sound of Grover snoring and gazed out the train window as the dark fields of Ohio raced by. Toward the end of our second day of the train, June 13th, 8 days before the summer solstice, we passed through some golden hills and over the Mississippi River until St. Louis. Annabeth craned her neck to see a gateway arch with looked to me like a huge shopping bag. Handle struck on the city. I want to do that, she signed. What? I asked. Build something like that. You'd ever seen the Prithophone, Percy? Only in pictures. Someday, I'm going to see it in person. I'm going to build the greatest monument to the gods ever, something that lasts thousands of years, I laughed. You an architect? You're an architect? I don't know why, but I found it funny. Just the idea of Annabeth trying to sit quietly and draw all day. Her cheeks flushed. Yes, an architect. Athena expects her children to create things, not just tear them down, like a certain god of earthquakes I could mentor. I watched the churning brown water of Mississippi below. Sorry, Annabeth said. That was mean. Can't we work together a little? I pleaded. I mean, didn't Annabeth and Poseidon ever cooperate? Annabeth had to think about it. I guess the chariot, she said tentatively. My mom invented it, but Poseidon created horses out of the quest of waves, so they had to work together to make it complete. Then we can cooperate too, right? We rode into the city, Annabeth watching as the ark disappeared behind a hotel. I suppose, she said at last. She said at last. We pulled into the Amtrak station downtown. The intercom told us we have a 3-hour layover before departing for Denver. Grover stretched before he was even fully awake and said, "Food." "Come on, go boy," Annabeth said. Sightseeing. The Gateway Arch. She said, "This may be the only chance to ride to the top, or you're coming or not. Or are you coming or not?" Grover and I exchanged looks. I want to say no, but I figured that Annabeth was going. We couldn't very well let her go alone. Grover struggled. As long as their snack with monsters. The arch was about a mile from the train station. Later in the day, the lines to get in weren't that long. We threaded our way through the underground museum, looking at covered wagons and other junk from the 80s. It wasn't all that thrilling, but Annabeth kept telling us certain facts about how Arch was built. And Grover kept passing me jelly beans, so I was okay. I kept looking around though at the other people in line. "You smell anything?" I murmured to Grover. He took his nose out of his jelly bean bag long enough to sniff. "Underground," he said disastrously. "Underground? Air? Always smells like monsters, probably. Doesn't mean anything." But something felt wrong to me. I had a feeling we shouldn't be here. "Guys," I said, "you know the god's symbol of power." Annabeth had been in the middle of reading about the construction equipment used to build the arch. But she looked over. "Yeah? Well, hey." Grover cleared his throat. "We're in a public place. You mean our friend downstairs?" Right," I said. "Our friend way downstairs. Doesn't he have a hat like Annabeth?" "You mean the Helm of Darkness?" Annabeth said. "Yeah, that is a symbol of power. I saw. It's next to his seat during the winter solstice council meeting." "He was there?" I asked. She nodded. It's the only time he allowed to visit. Olympians, the darkest day of the year. But his helm is not more powerful than the invisibility hat. If what I've heard is true, it allows him to become darkness," Grover confirmed. "He can melt into shadows or pass through walls. He can't be touched or seen or heard. And he can radiate fear so intense It can drive you insane or stop your heart. Why do you think all ratation creatures fear the dark? But then, how do we know that how do we know that how do we know that he's not here right now, watching us? I asked. Annabeth and Grover exchanged looks. We don't, Grover said. Thanks, that makes me feel a lot better, I said. Got any blue jelly beans left? I almost mastered my jumping nervous when I saw the tiny little elevator car. We were going to that ride to the top of the arch, and I knew I was in trouble. I hate confined places. They make me nuts. We got shoehorned into the car with this big fat lady and her dog, a chinchilla with rhine-nosed collar. I figured maybe the dog was a seeing-eye chinchilla because none of the guards said a word about it. We started going up inside the ark. I'd never been in an elevator. That's went in a curve, and my stomach wasn't too happy about it. No parents. That fat lady asked us. She had beady eyes, pointing coffee-stained teeth, a flopping denim hat, and a denim dress that bludged so much she looked like a blue jean blimp. There below, Annabeth told her, scared of heights. Scared of heights? Oh, the poor darlings. The chinchilla ground. The woman said, Now, Sonny, behave. No, Sonny, behave. The dog had bendy eyes like its owner, allegedly, and vices. I said, Sonny. Is that his name? No, the lady told me. She smiled, as if that cleared everything up. At the top of the ark, the observation deck reminded me of a tin can with carpeting rows of tiny windows. Looked out over the city on one side and the river on the other. The view was okay, but if there's anything like less than a confined space, it is confined space with 600 feet in the air. I was ready to go pretty quick. Annabeth kept talking about structural supports and how she would have made a windows bigger and designed a see-through floor. She probably could have stayed up there for hours, but luckily for me, the park ranger announced that the observation deck would be closing for a few minutes. I stirred Grover and I stirred Grover and Annabeth toward the exit. Loaded them into the elevator, and I was about to get in myself when I realized there were already 2 other tourists inside. No room for me, the park ranger said. Next car, sir. Well, get out, Annabeth said. Well, we'll wait with you. But that was going to mess everybody up and taking even more time, so I said, Nah, it's okay. I'll see you guys at the bottom. Grover and Annabeth looked nervously, but they let the elevator door slide shut. Their car disappeared down the ramp. Now the only people left on the observation deck was the little boy and his parents, the park ranger, and the big fat lady with the chinchilla. I smiled uneasily at the fat lady. She smiled back, her forked tongue flickering between her teeth. Wait a minute, forked tongue? Before I could decide if I'd really seen that, her chinchilla dog jumped down and started yapping at me. Now, Sonny, the lady said. Does this look like a good time? We have all these nice people here, doggy, said the little boy. Look, a doggy! From his back lips. Well, son, the big fat lady sighed. A few instants I started forming in my stomach. Did you call the chinchilla your son? Chimmer, dear, the fat lady corrected. Not a chinchilla. It's an easy mistake to make. She rolled up her denim sleeves, relieved that the skin in her arms was scaly and green. When she smiled, I saw the teeth, or fangs. The pupil in her eyes were side with slits like reptiles. The chinchilla barked louder, and with each bark it grew, first to the size of a Doberman, then to a lion. The bark became a roar. The little boy screamed. His parents pulled him back towards the exit, straight into the park ranger, who stood paralyzed, gaping at the monster. The chimmer was now so tall, it backed rumbled against the roof, had the herd of the lion which blood-cracked manse, the body and hooves of a giant goat, and the serpent for the tail, and 10-foot-long diamondback, growling right of its shaggy behind. The rhinestone dog collar still hung around its neck, and the plate-sized dog tag was now easy to read. Chimler, rapid fire breathing, poisonous if found. Please call Tetris. Exit 954. I realized I hadn't even uncapped my sword. My hands were numb. I was 10 feet away from a chimney's bloody maw, and I knew that as soon as I moved, the creature would lunge. The snake lady made a hissing noise and might been laughter. Behold, Percy Jackson, Lord Zeus rarely allowed me to test a hero with one of my brood. For I am mother of monsters, the terrible Echidna. I stared at her. All I could think to say was, isn't that a kind of anteater? She howled. Her reptilian face turned brown and green with rage. I hate it when people say that. I hate Australian naming that ridiculous animal after me. For that, Percy Jackson, my son shall destroy you. The chimera charged, its lion teeth gashing a man aged to leap aside to dodge the bite, ending up to a familiar and the park ranger who were all screaming now, trying to pry open the emergency exit doors. I couldn't let them get hurt. I uncapped my sword, ran to the other side of the deck, and yelled, "Hey, chinchilla!" The chimera turned faster than I would thought possible. Before I could swing my sword, it opened its mouth, emitting a stretch like words larger than barbecue, barbecue pit, and the shot of a column of flame straight at me. I dove through the explosion. The carpet burst into flames. The heat was so intense it nearly seared off my eyebrows. Where I had been standing a moment before was a ragged hole in the side of the ark, which melted metal streaming around the edges. Great, I thought. We just blowtorched a national monument. Riptide was now a shining bronze blade in my hand, and a chimera turned. I slashed at its neck. That was my fatal mistake. The blade sparked harm, leasing off the dog collar. I tried to regain my balance, but I was so worried about defending myself against the fury lion's mouth. I completely forgot about the serpent tail until it whipped around the saint, its frags into my calf. My whole leg was on fire. I tried to jab Riptide into Cameo's mouth, but the serpent tail was around my ankles and pulled me off balance, and my blade flew out of my hand, spinning around a hole in the ark and down toward Mississippi River. I managed to get my feet, but I knew I had lost. I was weaponless. I could feel deadly poison racing up to my chest. I remember Kronos said that Ankylos would always return to me, but there was no pin in my pocket. Maybe it had fallen too far away. Maybe it only returns when it was a pin form. I didn't know, and I wasn't going to live long enough to figure it out. I based into a hole, into the wall. The chimera advanced, growling, smoke curling from its lips. Lady and Chinina cracked. They don't make heroes like then. Used to his son. The monster growled. It seemed in no hurry to finish me off. I was beaten. I glanced at the park ranger and the family, and the little boy was hiding behind his family's leg. I knew to protect these people, I couldn't just die. I tried to think, but my whole body was on fire. My head felt dizzily. I had no sword and was facing a massive, fire-breathing monster and its mother. And I was scared. There was no place else to go. So I stepped on the edge of the hole, far, far below the river glittered. If I die, would the monsters go away? Would they leave the humans alone? If you are the son of Poseidon, Akindia hissed, you would not fear water. Jump, Percy Jackson. Show me that water will not harm you. Jump and retrieve your sword. Prove your bloodline. Yeah, right. I thought I'd read somewhere that jumping into water from a couple stories high was like jumping onto a solid asphalt from here. I splattered on impact. The Chimeran's mouth glowed red, heating up for another blast. You have no faith, Anacleid told me. You do not trust the gods. I cannot blame you, little coward. Better you die now. The gods are faithless. The poison is in your heart. She was right. I was dying. I could feel my breath slowing down. Nobody would save me. Not even the gods. I backed up and looked down at the water. I remembered the warm glow of the father's smile. And then I was a baby. When I was a baby, he must have seen me. He must have visited me when I was in my cradle. I remember the swirling green trident that had appeared above my head the night of Capture the Flag, when Poseidon had claimed me as his son. But this wasn't the sea. This was Mississippi, dead center of the USA. There was no sea god here. Die, faithless one. Die, faithless one. Echinida, Rasp, and Chimera. Send a column of flames toward my face. Father, help me, I prayed. I turned and jumped, my clothes on fire, poison curling through my venoms. I plumped toward the river.